There are certain things in my life that I have been stubborn about, okay? Because I have been so stuck in either a hyper independence or proving to myself that I can manage struggle, that I can survive struggling in certain things. In my journal on July 6th, I wrote, I've been stubborn about accepting when I'm faced with an obstacle, even when I have the means to overcome it. The reason isn't because I have grown to love the challenge, but that I have gotten used to it living beside me. I feel like there are certain things in my life that is fueled either by hyper independence or this other part of me that wants to prove that I am a survivor, that I am strong and I can manage certain struggles. And then I get to a point where I'm reminded that I don't have to live that way. I don't have to live in this survival mode, just taking what's in front of me and allowing myself to exist with these problems when I have the means to, live better. And I think it's so darn easy for us to just continue to tread along life with this obstacle, with this problem, that's next to us, because we've dealt with it for so long that now it's part of our routine. Now we have lived around, this obstacle. Now, for me, it has been getting an air conditioner. Now, I know that doesn't sound deep whatsoever, but it was truly a life-changing conversation that I had with my partner, because I haven't had an air conditioner since I think high school, and I'm 27 now, so I'm way past high school, way past college. When I went into college, didn't have AC there either because it wasn't allowed, and so I just allowed myself to, get used to the heat and, get used to the heat, get used to that way of life. So I just became a survivor within, the heat and stuff like that. Back then, it was like, oh, it's August, because I believe move-in was like in August. It's August, fall is right around the corner. I'm not going to be suffering for too long. Well, that mindset pretty much followed me after college, because after college, I had, in my living situations, I had basement rooms. Now, with the basement, it doesn't get as hot, it's upstairs. So that was my thing of like why I was so, willing to take the basement, because it wasn't as hot. So I got used to like the coolness of a basement. I didn't need an AC anymore, or I didn't need an AC. And then fast forward to me moving into my apartments over the past 2 years. And my first apartment that I rented, I didn't bring an AC in there. I'm pretty sure it was allowed, but I just allowed myself, to just get used to it. And my whole thing, whenever somebody has asked me, oh, like, why don't you have an AC, girl? Like, why are you struggling like this? I'm like, honestly, I survived college without an AC, and that was like the hottest experience that I've ever experienced in my life. So I'm like, anything after that is like a walk in the park. So I'm like, I've survived without it for this long. Don't really need it. Now, fast forward to this apartment that I'm in now, because it's a different one. And we recently experienced a heat wave. And it was the hottest it's ever been in my apartment since I lived here. And I've been here for about a year now. But, in my head, I'm still like, I'm not going to get an AC. Like, it's only going to, like, it's not going to last for too long. Fall is right around the corner. I'll survive. Like, I'll be okay. And, that has worked for me, because it's always been, my solo experience. I never, like, succumbed anybody into trying to live the way that I live, because I'm like, I'm used to it. So therefore, like, it's not really an obstacle that I'm facing, because I'm so used to it. Like, it's not a big deal. But I had my boyfriend over, and it was absolutely too hot for his liking, okay? And he told me, he was like, you do not have to live like this. And I'm like, wait, you're making it sound like I'm struggling right now. You're making it sound like, that I'm really having a hard time living here. I'm like, I'm just so used to it that I'm just like, what's the point of changing things? I'm so used to it. And then I'm like, fall is right around the corner. Like, it doesn't really make sense to bring an AC in. And that was the stubbornness of me, you know, not really wanting to change my ways, because I've been side by side with this obstacle of, you know, the heat for so long, and that I have became, in my head, a strong soldier, you know, for not having an AC. And why was I so willing to prove that I was strong, that I could handle this heat, to the point of being so stubborn about wanting to, you know, make things cooler? Because yeah, there are days where I'm like, it is absolutely too hot for my liking. And like, thinking about those days, I was like, well, yeah, you have the means to change it. Like, you have the means to get yourself out of this situation. The only thing that's stopping you right now is the fact that you're being stubborn and you don't want to change, because you want to remain strong in your head. Don't know where that truly came from. Honestly, I think it's been, I'm like working through it as I'm talking, but it's like when friends hear me say, oh, you know, I don't have an AC, it started to become like a flex for myself a little bit, because then they start talking about, oh, like, you're so strong. So I don't know, something in my brain turned that into like a flex for myself, because I'm like, yeah, people think I'm strong for this, so I have to maintain the struggle. I have to continue to be strong, independent woman. I don't know, it's so weird how the brain works, and how things like stick to your brain in a way that is fueling this habit. Impacted the way that I thought about myself a little bit, because I was like, okay, I'm strong, I'm a strong survivor, and I have to continue to prove that. I have to continue to show people that I can survive the struggle. I have to continue to prove to myself that I can survive the struggle. But I don't have to. Don't have to live like this. I don't have to struggle like this. I don't have to hold onto this obstacle just because it's been a part of my life, just because I've been through it before. Because I think, and continue to live in this mode where you are constantly trying to prove to yourself that you can handle less, and prove to other people that you can handle less. In a way, you are also telling yourself that you are not worth more, that you cannot put yourself in a better situation just because you've lived this way for so long, just because you've had this habit for so long. Our comfortability with an obstacle, our familiarity with an obstacle, is not worth living a life separated from what is best for us. And there's been so many other things in my life that I've been able to change and move myself out of, because I allowed myself to think about, am I working out of what's best for me right now? Or am I just choosing to sustain having this obstacle because I have this idea that I have to prove that I'm strong enough, you know, to survive with it? When you have the means to move yourself out of the struggle, you should. It creates a more powerful identity for yourself. Now you're taking back the power of decision, because at first, of course, there was a time that you could not decide, you know, to overcome that obstacle. You had to suffer through it. You had to learn how to live through it. But as you go through life, just because you've experienced that obstacle before, doesn't mean you need to, you know, sustain it when you have the means to let it go. If there's something in your life that you're realizing, you know what, wait, I have been continuing this struggle by choice. There are other ways to prove that you are strong, and that is getting yourself out of the mindset that you have to struggle in this life, even when you do not need to. So let this be a reminder to look at the things in your life, look at your way of living, look at the way that you have been, you know, exploring life. Point out obstacles that have been in your life for too long by choice. Point out obstacles that were supposed to be temporary, that you have allowed a permanent spot in your life just because you've gotten comfortable with it. I think that's all I have to say for this. Let me know if this resonated with you.